Good afternoon. It's great to welcome Laura Munson back to Lake Forest in the midst of her book tour, which has taken her to Greenwich and many other places, and there's still many to go. Many of us know Laura from the days when she grew up here. She attended Lake Forest Country Day School, and she spent many happy days here at Valencia. She wrote many works of fiction, and then she broke through with her nonfiction memoir, This Is Not the Story You Think It Is. Her novel Willis Grove came soon after that, and that received excellent reviews. Laura runs Haven Writing Retreat in Montana, where she helps writers rediscover their wonder. And that brings us to her latest book, The Wild Lie, stories or teachings to uncover your wonder. And Laura will take us on a journey through the wild lie today. But first, she has shared with me that she wants to open with a little ode that she calls an ode to Munson. So, Laura, it's great to have you here with so many of your friends and family, and it's the stage is yours.
All right. Hi, everybody. Hello. Now, the first thing we have to say is, hi, Mom. If you don't know my mother, Virginia Munson McTeer, you do now. She's this beautiful human being standing right there. And I dedicate this to my mom, this speech. I've been going across the country. I've been all over the place, and I'll be continuing on this journey all the way through the 30th of May. So this is my 15th event in 14 days. And I'm just so happy to be here in this room. I promised myself I wouldn't cry. Whew, and I'm not going to put up this close. So I also want to say this is in part possible because of course, my friend David Sweet. We grew up together. We went to college together. Thank you for allowing me to be the speaker today. I wasn't so sure. And also Lisa Smith, who had a whole bunch of people who were going to come today, and some did. Mom isn't doing that great, although she's on the up and up, so that's great. So we love to Liz, Kinney, and this is Lisa's birthday party in part as well. It's a speaking series, so we need to, and we're zooming it. So we need to sing happy birthday to Lisa Smith. You ready? I'll start. Well, do anybody remember her in the seventh grade play? When there's Mrs. Kinney. Oh no, is that Lisa? Lisa! Okay, ready? This is for you, baby. Do you remember when she was Rosie in Bye Bye Birdie? Everything is rosy when I'm with my Rosie. She's right there. So we're gonna sing happy birthday to you, baby. Ready? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Lisa. Happy birthday to you. And I left you a little present with Marge at the front. Or I think, wait, no, Marge? Sue. Sue with Sue at the front. So, is it Julie open? Hi. Sweetheart, I'm so happy to open. Gosh, lots of people. Okay. So thank you all for being here today. I did write a little ode to Onwencia, and then I'll read to you from this book. We have a very worried world right now. We have a very worried world right now. So I invite you for this time together to step outside of this worried world and step into your wonder. And I'll talk more about what my definition of wonder is in a minute. But first, before I read from my book, The Wild Why, and Maria Shriver just recommended it as one of the picks of this year, which is really exciting to me. So it's doing pretty well out there. Before I read from The Wild Why, I want you to tune into your wonder and what it means to you because it's different for each person. So I want you to think, and don't worry, I won't make you share. This isn't one of my writing retreats, although I do have some spots to watch your writing retreats, Haven writing retreats. I want you to think of a time in your life where you felt wonder any time of your life? Childhood, this morning, was it a tickling feeling stirring in your belly when you thought of what the day before you held? Was it digging in the sand and your fingers scraping against something and then digging around it until you pulled up a shell, a whole shell, with not one dent or ding in it? Remember that feeling? Like it was put there just for you? Was it the first time you held a puppy and smelled its ears? I always think puppies' ears smell like Fritos. Or felt its tongue on your cheek? A lot of this book, The Wild Why, Stories and Teachings to Uncover Your Wonder, is about thinking. A lot of it is about how to find your truth in the way you express yourself. And that starts in your mind. So I want you to think about something right now. I want you to think about your sense of wonder. I want you to think about what wonder means to you. Is it curiosity? Is it awe? Are there wild questions in you that you know you need to answer or try to answer, but that just feel too hard or painful? Or is it your sense of wonder more about awe, stopping and beholding something that is truly awesome, like those trees? I loved those trees. Remember when Dutch elm disease happened and so many of those beautiful trees fell? But those beautiful deciduous trees that are just coming alive right now, and all the forsythia, the ravines. It's my favorite time of year here. Well, fall, but this time too. Um, is your sense of wonder about dropping what you're doing to stand and sit in awe? A flock of snow geese essing through the sky, a child playing in the sand, a rainbow? But does wonder feel too grandiose? That's a big word from wonder. Too committed or time consuming for your busy life, too silly or frilly. To me, wonder is curiosity and awe put together. Heavy on the awe. It's what's behind our self-expression, behind our creativity and our essence. Wonder is what connects us with our intuition, our deepest self-knowing. So, by my definition, and if you have a different definition of wonder, please humor me for the purpose of this potent exercise. I want you to answer this question in your mind, not out loud, right now. And it's a big one, an important one, maybe even a dire one. And here's the question: have I lost my wonder? Have I lost my wonder? Again, my definition of wonder is curiosity and awe, heavy on the awe. Have I lost my wonder? It's an honest question. It's a pure question. It's a playful question. It's an illuminating question. You know who's never lost her wonder? Lisa Smith, right there. Hi, Lisa. It's also a potentially tragic question. In some cases, it's truly a dire question with the highest of stakes. So please, I ask you right now privately, maybe just touch its shadow since we're in a public situation, but initiate the question in your mind and heart. Have I lost my wonder? Open your mind to this question, not in a shaming way, not in an accusatory way. Just open your mind to this notion. Have I lost my wonder? If not, have you lost some of your wonder? Or maybe you haven't, but you feel that you are about to if your life keeps going the way it is. I want you to be honest with yourself about this. Because without our wonder, our central ability to be full of, if not led by, curiosity and awe, then how are we to feel empathy? And without empathy, how are we to begin to understand other people, especially those who are different from us? And without understanding people who are different from us, how is civilization to thrive? How is it to continue? You see, wonder is not a silly, frilly concept. It is life force. We need our ability to empathize to be intact human beings. We need our empathy in order to love. No one is the same as us. We are all somehow, if not radically, different from one another, and that's a wonderful fact. So let's switch this from a question of life to the possibility of hope, of shifting our wonderlessness into our wonder again. And I say again because if we were all children, and I was a child with some people in this room, I wouldn't be standing here talking about any of this. We would not be even talking about this. Children are wonder. They're in it. They're not walking around saying, I'm stuck. I don't have a voice. I'm not creative. They are pure wonder. We'd be playing in the sandbox together, connecting our castles by moats and filling them with water so that our dragons could play. We'd be trading shovels with each other, mine wider, yours pointier, both wonderful tools in our eager and wonderful hands. We'd be filling a bucket with sand to make another castle. We wouldn't ask where the bucket came from. It was just here in the sandbox, a relic of other children at play, ours for a while until our mothers over there sitting on the bench talking tell us that it's time to go home, or until we get called in for dinner because maybe we're playing in a community sandbox in a neighborhood full of children and we meet each day and play and we never once talk about wonder because again we are wonder until we aren't. I have written this book to help you recover your wonder because it doesn't ever really die. It doesn't ever really die. And in so doing, to understand where you might have lost it along the way for a while, because we all have to some degree. Even those of us who feel like that light is alive in us, that it burns in us and has never stopped, even we still know that it's faded and almost flickered out a few times in our lives. And that's okay, because life lifes. There's a lot that happens when we leave the sandbox, whether or not we even want to leave the sandbox. So if you are inwardly nodding to yourself that yes, you have lost your wonder, take heart. I have a book that will become your friend, that can live on your bedside table, that you can carry around, travel with, live by. It's meant to help you, and believe me, it wants to. It wouldn't leave me alone for 9 years until it finally became the book that it is. So I'm going to read my ode to Anwencia. And everywhere that I've read something a little different. And this one came to me at 4 a.m. when many things come to us. And chapter 2 in this book is called The 4 a.m. Haunt. And I've read that in lots of places so far across the country. I'm not going to read that right now. I'm going to read an ode to Anwencia because there's a lot of wonder here for me growing up. I mean, it's kind of hard for me not to think about, I threw my wedding bouquet from there. I mean, I got lots of stories about Anwencia. But this is, again, dedicated to my mother. And I also want to call out my dear friend and Spanish teacher from the Lake Forest Country Day School, Nan Caldwell, who is in the book. No names in the book. I did name my grandmothers, Mimi and Gogo. Many of you knew them, but Nan is in the book because, as you know in your life, people come along like one person and they can change everything for me. And I can tell you, this woman has never lost her wonder. So I just want to also dedicate this to you, even though we didn't get to play in the sandbox, but we would have had a lot of fun in the sandbox. Let's keep playing. Okay. Right. So, Ode to Anwencia, one of my true wonder meccas. This was my sandbox, as it were. This place, this Anwencia, this second home just down Green Bay Road from my house, my tree house, my actual sandbox. I was allowed to ride my bike here from an early age, my metallic green Schwinn Caliente 10-speed that I got at, of course, you guessed it, because if you lived here as a kid, you got your first bike there too. Where? Kickles! And it still smells exactly the same. The last mom and pop shop left. Thank God it still smells exactly the same, like bike tires and something sweet that I've never been able to place. Maybe it's the sweet smell of wonder itself. I'd hop on my bike and pump my pedals, usually no-handed, with my then skinny legs along the elm-lined road of my home, my school, and our club. Sidewalks, smooth, then bump, smooth, then bump, smooth, then bump, square by square. In one of them, my handprint, something my father chastised me for with a wink. Here's to John Munson. What a gentleman, my dear dad. Weekly, because he passed by it when he'd take the long way back from the train station because he wanted to get in a few extra blocks. He was a walker and a wanderer. Sometimes we'd walk here to the club on a summer Saturday to meet my mom after her tennis tournament, swim, and then have curried egg salad with Bay's English muffin and an OLL. And he and my mother would sit back and take in the beauty. Isn't this the most beautiful place? They'd say. We are so lucky. And I'd agree, but I'd be antsy because there was so much to explore, this magical, mystical wonder of a place with all its ancient rooms and stories held in their walls. And what about that distant horse arena? My father knew I wanted to explore, so he'd say, with that same serious face he had when he was an usher at church, and that same wonderful wink, Laura, why don't you go roam around? That's my dad impression. Just think Jimmy Stewart. Why don't you go roam around, like he was releasing me to Narnia? He knew I was safe. I knew I was safe. My mother knew I was safe. But I also knew that this place had wonder, fuel, and I wanted it with all my bony might. I had my places. The thin, flat bluestone steps from the outdoor grill, which is what we called it then, back when there was a hack shell where the Great Lakes Marine Choir would sing at the 3rd of July party, and my parents would hold my hands as tears rolled down their sunburned cheeks. Those steps led up to a world of possibility right there, that terrace. Friends, grandmothers, you would see eating lunch on a terrace with other friends' grandmothers. We knew the grandmothers because we'd often ride our bikes after school over to their houses, and they'd feed us cookies on elegant china plates with linen napkins, and we'd be allowed to sit in the grown-up rooms and we'd visit. I miss visiting. I'm thinking of Grandmother Clark right now. They'd ask us questions, and we'd answer as politely as we'd been taught, with stories and giggles and questions back then about the exotic olden days. And they'd tell us about how Market Square was full of a tower of metal for the war effort during World War II. And they'd get a distant look. And we'd tell them about the play we were putting on at school, and maybe sing them a song from it. Sometimes they would give us money for candy at Woolworth's, but we didn't expect it. Their eyes would widen with our answers. We knew deep down that they needed us, and we knew that when we parked our bikes in their gravel driveways and pushed those glorious doorbells. Looking back now, I know what those grandmothers were doing and what we were doing without meaning to. We were helping them to uncover their wonder. So I'd go over to their tables on the terrace and shake hands with grown-ups we didn't know. And then I had a choice to risk getting into trouble and brave going in the big doors to the club living room, which is pretty much off limits. Sidebar, my friends and I are quite likely the reason why kids under 18 weren't allowed in the ladies' powder room in the mid-70s. There was just so much powder and scope to play with. Those plastic cups. Or do I go around the back way up the mysterious steps to the old ladies' locker room, abandoned long ago, but still open? The toilets still worked. Those heavy doors and thick latches, the smell of girls dressing for sports still lingering, the smell of girls like sweaty tennis shoes and Wrigley spearmint gum. Though we weren't allowed to chew gum at the club, I still don't chew gum, and you'll be very happy to know that, Mom. Although she was courted by Billy Wrigley, right? Who used to give her Wrigley spearmint gum, right? Back in the Latin school days. I'd often just sit on a sink in that forgotten, dormant locker room and stare in the mirror and wonder, who am I going to be when I grow up? No one ever came into that locker room. And then I would make my rounds. I'd walk out into the hallway and open the door that wasn't the sort of door to beckon, but I knew the treasure behind it, and so did every other kid my age. The adults seemed to be oblivious to it. The balcony. I'd creep back the door just enough to crawl into its chamber, open up the key holder a few times, imagining there would be a key into another world like the wardrobe in Narnia. And then I'd inch up to my knees so that I could just peer over the balcony into the living room and across to the other longer balcony on the other side. Sometimes the boys would be up there like Tor Elting and Brian Swift and some other people that you all might know. And we'd flirt. I didn't think that someday I would throw my wedding bouquet from that balcony and feel like a princess. I had a few more places that required my visitation. Now this turns into sort of Eloise at the Plaza. And I did win the speaking contest at the Lake Forest Country Day School speaking contest twice. So there. And I did an Eloise variation. So this is kind of an ode to that too. So first the phone booth. Go in there and smell the adult world in one whiff. Cigarettes in the 70s, it was du jour to smoke while you were on the phone. Maybe the smell of newspaper or the train if the fathers came straight to the club from work. A tinny smell like dried blood, and maybe some greasy kid stuff, as my father called it. Hair gel, I guess it was. Maybe a hint of Menin or Sea and Ski or Bromo Seltzer or Diorissimo if my own grandmother had used the phone in recent history. And the phone book absorbing and holding it all. That phone booth still smells, and I just smelled it. It still smells a bit like it used to, like a little less than Kittles, but wonder needs our sense of smell. Then I'd go into my favorite room in the club, the walnut-paneled, smaller living room off the red bar. Well, actually, if there wasn't anyone in the red bar, I'd usually have to go in and say hi to the bartender and watch a few minutes of All My Children or whatever soap opera they had on, and then say, I need to hide for a minute. And he'd smile, and I'd wrap myself in the curtain and look out the window at the tennis courts, see who was playing, and glad it wasn't me. Sorry, Mom, I was never a good tennis player. I spent a lot of time hiding behind that curtain over the years during tennis lessons, so don't tell my mother. Then back through the small living room, out to the porch, and through a door that was probably supposed to be open, back to the terrace and the grandmother's, and down the thin blue stone steps, tapping each one with my toe, now in a sort of ballet, and past my parents, my father winking at me, my mother chatting with Mrs. Somebody whose name I couldn't remember, and fast past them before I have to go shake hands and tell them what I want to be when I grow up because I really don't know. Do I have to know? I just want to play. I just want to go sit on my throne and hope none of the other older girls have claimed it. The ones with the long, long hair parted in the middle, the pretty ones that scare me. No offense, Lisa, or Cecily, or Mary. And look at that, no one's there. I walk past the phone that I'll likely use a little later because I'll probably run into a friend and want to swim and practice our diving. This is quite an ode, isn't it, right? Is it stirring up any memories for anybody? And practice our diving and sit under the waterfalls and let the water tickle our necks and shoulders, and my parents will want to go home for naps. That heavy black phone with a stubborn dial that made the most satisfying sound as it met its end stop and clacked on back to its resting place. Mom, can I spend the night at Jay's? Can I spend the night at Natalie's? But I'm still alone. My parents are early lunch eaters, so I go over to the ledge by the brick stairs that led up to a room where the mothers ate lunch and played mysterious games like duplicate bridge. On weekdays during swimming lessons, no one's there, my throne. I discovered it, of course, and my whole body fits on it from head to heel. And it's warm because it's also bluestone. And I lie there until my mosquito-bitten calves are so hot that I have to get off and do one last thing. Now, I have to sneak because suddenly everyone is surely looking for me and I'm about to get into big trouble for something I don't know that I've done, and it's espionage now. I am a spy and I am being hunted, and so I need to go to my hiding place, and it's not the red bar, it's in the woods, the wild, wild wilderness of the Onwensia woods. So I sneak past all the golf stuff that is mostly men in mattress shorts who pretend not to know me and I pretend not to know them. It's better that way. No eye contact. Maybe I'm invisible. And I quick run to the first shiny car in the parking lot. Scope it out, free and clear, then quick, make a break for it to the next shiny car. Suss it out. Not a person in any direction. Just the sound of the perfect pop of a tennis racket and a new green ball and someone shouting a non-swear word. If it's my mother, it's Shyster von Bootlebottom. Remember that all? I love when she says Shyster von Bootlebottom because she would never swear. And she always says it in the same way my father gives me a wink for putting my hand in wet cement on the corner of Green Bay Road and Deer Path when I'm walking my dog, Cotton, who has never been to the Onwensia Club. And right now, I wish I had him as protection. Bichon Frises are excellent guard dogs, after all. He'd fight for me. I know he would. Catton, with the, like, I tried to get rid of my Midwestern accent, and I slip into it, but it was definitely cat. And with cotton consciousness, I make a break for it. I beeline for the tennis backboard, concrete. Too many times my ball's careening over the top into an endless no man's land. I am not good at tennis, period. I do like writing in my journal, though, and horses and the woods. So I look to my left at the club itself, that mighty mansion where I'm told F. Scott Fitzgerald met his inspiration in Ginevra King, which begat Daisy and many of his other characters, where I know there's a McCutcheon Hunt caricature, and I'll hold it until the sun times comes out and I know it's fall. And then I look to my right to the miles of woods with last year's leaves dry and still crunchy. The coast is clear and I run. I run across the swath of grass that no one ever touches with their shoes, and it's all mine. I duck under a spruce, and now I'm safe from imminent capture. I find the perfect spot between a few trees where the forest floor is thick with leaves, and I sit down in them and start piling them up all around me until I'm covered. Then I lie back and scoop more leaves over myself until it's just my nose telescoping out of it, leaf dust in my eyes. But I can see the sky. It's a Midwestern August blue. Soon it will be my birthday and I will be older. Soon I will be older. And I wonder what I will be when I grow up. The adults want to know, but I am 7 years old and it doesn't matter to me. Not yet. So now I take you from the woods of Onwensia to the woods of Montana. Thank you for listening to that. So this is page 117, and I also want to thank Lake Forest Bookstore for being here. Please support your local independent bookstores. I'm only touring at independent bookstores or doing events with them across the country for 2 solid months. Please, please support your local independent bookstores. We need them. So this chapter is called A Storyless Life is a Wonder Challenged Life, and I'm just going to read half of it, and then I'm going to open it up to some questions if people have questions. Once upon a time, I was walking in the woods of Montana with a friend of mine who is more full of wonder than almost anyone I know. I was, as usual, picking his brain about the subject. He's one of those rare adult kindreds who has never lost his wonder either. It's just that I'm usually much more wonder-taxed than he. I had worked myself into an emphatic rant. People throw around this word awesome, and I can't hear a drop of actual awe in it. And then in almost the same breath, they tell me that they're not creative. We're all creative. Every act of living is creative. Every step we take, every choice we make, every word that comes out of our mouth, it's all an act of creation. It's a lie that we're not creative. How could we have forgotten what the child in us knew so well? We are by nature creative because we are by nature full of wonder. Have we forgotten our wonder? Wonder is what's behind creativity. You know, I think if we say that we're not creative or if we fear our creativity, it means that what we've really lost is our wonder. He stopped on the trail then and smiled at me. My friend likes it when I get riled up. He runs on the steady, grounded side of life. Creativity is a big word for people, Laura, and wonder is even bigger. I think you're onto something since people use the word awesome all the time. Maybe that's the word to start with. Agreed. We know what to do with our curiosity, but we don't stop and stand in our curiosity. Instead, we start clicking away to find the cyber answer. I hate that about our society. If Montana has taught me one thing, it's how to stand in my curiosity in a true place of awe. I could tell that he took my word hate to heart. He doesn't like to dwell in the negative. His smile widened and his eyes electrified in that mountain man way of his that might cause him to rip off his clothes and dive into a glacial lake in February. Do you think you could build a fire that would burn for 60 seconds in 5 minutes using only what is in these woods with one match and only one entry point to ignite the fire? He asked. Now I'm pausing there. Please do not make fires in the woods. This was in a very controlled environment. I mean it. Of course, I said. This guy is never far from using the woods to teach a lesson. I was game, especially if it would teach me about wonder. He smiled even wider. Let's each of us do it. I'll time us. We'll build our fire structure here, but you can go anywhere you want to gather your materials. When 4 minutes have gone by, I'll make the sound of a raven. That means we have 1 more minute. Of course, a raven, that's so him. Okay, I said, forgetting about wonder and awe and the state of our society. Instead, I felt the challenge put its full weight on me, giving me a good shove. I marked where we were in the forest, thinking, I'm clever and I know my way around the woods. I know my way around fires. I'm going to build the best fire he's ever seen. I'm powerful. Watch me. Mine will be just as good as yours, Mr. Mountain Man. Mine might even be better than yours. Mine could keep a cabin in the woods warm in 30 below temps for days. Mine could rotisserie cook a wild boar that I just caught, along with black truffles. It was rooting out from the belly of a ponderosa root system. I'll invite my literary hero, Jim Harrison, and my culinary hero, Anthony Bourdain, to reincarnate and come over for dinner in my little cabin with my perfect fire for a 13-course dinner. And I'll tempt them with Bruglio and Barrillo and Brunello and Vandal. And so, of course, they will show up because they're both writers and have a penchant for B wines. And they'll use my high school nickname, Lulu. That's how much they'll love me and my fire and my cabin in the woods and my wild boar and black truffles and wine. I darted my eyes across the train thinking, what birds, what birds, what birds. I ran to the first birch tree I could find, and I peeled some bark off an old fallen branch. Then I saw some dry bare grass and picked a few clumps, and then some dry sticks, and pine needles, a few larger sticks, and a small fir cone. An almost raven cawed through the forest. 1 more minute. I dashed back and constructed my fire structure. First grass, then pine needles, then bark, then cone. Then I arranged the sticks in a little teepee, small sticks and then larger sticks. This will burn for sure. I looked around. My friend was sitting on a log with some dried grass bundled near his feet. Time, he said. Then he came over to my fire structure, crouched down, and passed me a strike anywhere match and matchbox. Carefully, I held the match as close to the grass at the bottom of the teepee as possible, lit it, and gently pushed the flame into the grass. The grass ignited and flared and licked at a pine needle, the flame running to its end, curling it, and then fading into char and smoke. It didn't touch the bark, nor the cone, nor the little sticks. And no way the larger ones. Nah, no fire, not even for 2 seconds, never mind 60. I shrugged and didn't exactly look him in the eye. I make a fire in my wood stove every day all winter, just so you know, and a lot of the time with just one match. It was his turn. He went over to his log and knelt by the little nest of dried grass. Then he struck a match and held the flame to what looked like a small piece of sap. And we watched as it ignited and lit the grass and became a fire and burned for a lot longer than 60 seconds. And I thought, that fire really could have been something if he wanted it to be. I wanted to go over to my little teepee and borrow its sticks to feed his fire. I could feel him looking at me, smiling, wanting me to learn something about wonder from his exercise. I swallowed hard and I said, it was only supposed to be a 60-second fire. He smiled. That's all. Just a 60-second fire. I know. You don't have to shove my face in it. I'm an overachiever by nature. And I'm sure I get in my own way all the time because of it. I'm not sure why I always think I have to be so perfect and prove so much. My ambition gets in my way a lot. Even when I drop its sword, I seem to pick it up again as if it's the only way, which makes me so ashamed. I know there's another way. It hurts to hold that sword. Just a little ball of sap holds so much power, you know? He smiled, so bright that his holy showed. I sat on the forest floor and gazed into what remained of his little smoking fire. So, do you think perfectionism and achievement-based thinking get in the way of our wonder and our ability to stop in awe? Has our competitive society totally ruined our wonder? Or should I say, has our participation in society totally ruined our wonder? Is our creativity only as good as inventing the next I, whatever? Do we even know how to stop and stand in awe? Do we all just need to walk in the woods more often and look for sap? He sat there on his log smiling at me. Finally, he said, or just look for nothing. There's an Apache proverb that says that wisdom sits in places. Then it occurred to me, you didn't even get off your log, did you? He shook his head slowly and kindly. I felt a little sick inside at how poorly I had played his game and how dense I had been to his wonderful lesson, getting so wrapped up in the challenge. I ran all over the place when I had everything I needed right here, didn't I? He smiled and nodded again slowly and kindly. But I bet you didn't know how sap burns, did you? No, I didn't. But if I had stopped and just looked and wondered, I bet it would have occurred to me. I mean, I've seen how sap flares when it burns. I was just thinking more big picture, big bonfire in front of my wonder cabin in the woods. I rolled my eyes. There may have been literary celebrities involved and really good wine, so maybe my cabin wasn't much of a wonder cabin. Maybe it was a greed cabin. I want a true wonder cabin. We watched the last of his little fire smoke. You'll find it if you stop long enough. His smile even stopped for a moment. I said, I think you just managed to so accurately model what true creativity is and is not. I went running all over the place with a plan, with a fierce commitment to being successful, good, very good, if not perfect, to build not just a little dinky fire, but a bonfire. I totally lost track of the simple, wonderful piece of it. I lost track of what's behind a fire, didn't I? Something as small as a little nugget of sap, which is everywhere in the woods. True creativity begins with sitting still in wonder and awe. Curiosity is key, but it's awe that I think we need to practice more in our lives. He smiled as if to say, you know what they say about curiosity in cats? Something so little and obvious. He smiled some more and said, and it was just supposed to be a 60-second fire. So you're saying that your fire burned because of your ability to stop and be right where you are and create something small and simple instead of racing and chasing and muscling the situation in order to win the Bigfoot Award, aren't you? Wonder can be very small. It probably should be very small. Something that you can access right where you are and be in awe. He nodded and played with his long gray beard as if he were awe itself. Sometimes you have to learn to sit still to see where power lives. I sat a long time before I finally learned that sap is the best friend to fire. I love that about you. You know how to stop and take it all in and not make it hard. You know how to make it easy. I thought about my moment on the stump in the mushrooms in the trees. That's from an earlier part of the book. I sit on a lot of stumps because I live in Montana, and you can sit on park benches or your patio furniture. We need to stop, be in awe. Um, I know that it is easy. I said you just have to stop and wonder. Then you can create. Then it comes with ease. And then what you create can turn into something huge if you want it to. Not that huge is best. And he smiled. Start right where you are. That one hit a janky nerve. Damn, it's so true. I make everything so difficult. I'm always braced against life, ready for things to be hard, like I'm going to have to fight a mountain lion, and always having to prove myself. What a wonder buster. I looked at him sitting on that log with the wind in his beard and the sunshine in his eyes, and I said, I bet that's why people are so convinced they're not creative. They think they have to get an A plus. Kids don't care. They just want to play. They don't walk around saying, I'm not creative. I don't have a voice. I'm stuck. He smiled again, and I could see exactly what he must have looked like when he was a little boy. You don't always have to build a really big fire, Laura, he said. You just need to know how things burn. That's all. I added, and that takes wonder. And that is the definition of awesome. Then a real raven cackled laughed above us. We looked at each other and then upward, cackle laughed back. So I'll stop right there. Thanks for listening to that, everybody. Thank you. Standing in photo. So does anybody have any questions? I'm not a wonderologist. I don't have letters after my name about wonder, and that's on purpose because to be a child, and everybody in this room was a child, it is to be in wonder. I'm looking at people I've known all my life. You have never lost your wonder. Remember, you used to bring snakes to the day school? And I mean, I still use this all day, but I mean, you've never lost your wonder. David Waugh right here. Do you remember when you used to come and do all the really great morning exercises, all about scuba diving and what was it called? David Wado, right? Yeah. So, what do you have any questions about what it is to live in wonder and why we might lose it? You know you can do this. Here's a question I get asked a lot. Um, so what gets in the way of our wonder? And I think it's our inner voice. And I call it the inner critter because why not be playful? But society calls it the inner critic, the inner judge. I have a whole chapter in here called the inner critter. And when people come on my writing retreats, that's basically what we're working with most because you can turn a phrase or twist a plot or have a fabulous command of the language in which you write and speak. But if you don't have your finger on the pulse of what's behind what you have to say, it will never build the bridge to the reader or the listener because you have to use your self-expression to build that bridge to yourself first. And what gets in the way of that as we get older is that inner critter. And I worked with a lot of educators and they tell me that it's about age 12, like about sixth grade, this incredible woman teaches middle school. Short of having serious abuse, that inner critter is born right around that age. And I volunteer in our local school in Whitefish for the fourth graders, and I do writing exercises with them. And they're so excited to do them, and they don't even care about the directions. They're just all like sweaty with their little Dixon type kind of wrote a number 2 pencil in their hand. So excited to write. Then they can't wait to share. And then I go in and I teach, I mean, it's just a volunteer thing, in the 7th grade. And you can bet, you know exactly what I'm going to say. Those same kids 2 years later are shut down. There are a few of them that are still those kids that just want to read and write. But so many of them are just like, please don't call on me, please don't call on me, please let me sit in the back row. Kids that were in the front row 2 years before that. And by the time we're at whatever age you are, think about how much practice you've had. at those habituated thought patterns that tell us that we aren't good enough, that we don't have anything important to say, that we should shut up and say, I'm fine, when we're bleeding inside. What gets in the way of that flow? It is what I believe. I used to think in the first book that was published, I wanted to get rid of her. I called her my evil twin sister Sheila, and if your name is Sheila, I apologize. I don't know. I think I did get that from hiding behind the curtain of the red bar, but she's like, but like somebody down a well, you know, remember that? The twin sister in the well. I think that's not right. I got a couple people nodding. So but I realized actually on a stage at the Massachusetts Conference for Women in front of 2,000 women, I realized I'm never going to get rid of that voice. I'm not. Even though I'm aware of her, I'm still like absolutely bringing her into the most prime and sacred real estate that a human has, really. I mean, short of your soul, but your mind, I'm letting her in. And so I realized, you know, I think she's just a scared child. She's just a scared child. And when she's really mean, that's when I know she's really scared. And so if you have a child that you love, and certainly you were a child, so how about loving our own inner child? But if somebody came in the middle of the night, a little child that we love, ranting and raving and freaking out and saying really mean things to us and thrashing and throwing stuff around, having a night on, you wouldn't say beat it. Mommy needs her beauty rest. You'd say, sweetheart, you're having a bad dream. Let's walk you back to bed. I'll sit here on the edge of your bed and I'll rub your back until you go to sleep. And guess what? She settles down. And that's how I handle my inner critter now. Like a scared child who knows exactly what to say to break my heart. And she's had a lot of practice. Isn't that a nicer way of looking at it? Instead of thinking, oh, I need to get rid of that inner critic. It's like that's just already inner terrorism. But if we can look at that voice that we all have, I've never met one person, and I've worked with over 1,000 people in the field of self-expression that doesn't have that voice. We're constantly judging ourselves, and we wouldn't treat our worst enemies the way that we treat ourselves in our own minds. So I invite you to start looking at that voice. It's just a scared child that you love. I hope that helps. Does anybody else have questions besides me asking myself a question? Come on. I know you got a question. Oh, thank you, Kate.
Right, Tracy, just to get people to write. What is your favorite writing prompt? For those of us that like probably don't write enough just for fun.
Thank you. Did you all hear that? So Kate was wondering so in these retreats that I lead, what my favorite prompts are. And not everybody who comes is a writer at all. Like it's truly meant to meet you where you need to be met. And we've had plenty of Lake Foresters who come. At the end of each, so the reason why the subtitle is Stories and Teachings to Uncover Your Wonder, at the end of each chapter, there is a prompt of sorts, and they're not all writing prompts. They're more just self-awareness prompts, thinking prompts in many cases. One of them is to take a small journal, since we're talking about the inner critter, put it in your purse or your back pocket, like a little one, carry it around with you throughout one day. You don't have to do it for a week or like a whole year of your life, just one day. And every time you start to feel bad, you just get this bad feeling inside of you, tune in. Am I my own worst enemy right now? How am I speaking to myself in my own mind? And write down the dialogue. Literally write it down. It seems like I'm never going to do that, but try it for one day. Maybe just try it for 1 hour, and you will be astounded by how you talk to yourself in your own mind. And the way that you know when you're doing that inner terrorism thing, it's when you do. It's when you feel bad. You start to, why am I feeling bad? I'm just buying broccoli. Why am I sad right now buying broccoli? Now, there's another prompt in here that I really love, and that is to tell your story. Am I going crazy or oh, it's okay. No, suddenly I'm back to my wedding and I feel like dancing with her. Right here. In my mother's wedding. So, I blah, 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 blah. Oh, tell your story. So, you know how people say, hi, how are you? And you say, I'm fine, how are you? Or like you start to really share and then you get this inner critter voice. It's like, don't talk too much, don't talk too much, don't talk too much. Or, oh, anyway, but enough about me. How about you? Or, that is this, and that's okay because some people aren't safe. You don't owe everybody your whole story. And if you want to write a memoir, be careful. Work with someone like me that you can trust. It takes a lot to write past the fear of exposure, and it takes a lot to tell your story past the fear of exposure. And you don't owe it to every single person you meet. In fact, it's unsafe to share your story with just anyone. So in this book, there's a chapter called The Tiger in the Room, where a friend was driving cross country, and she's a big producer of a big morning show that you've all heard of. And she took a hiatus for 6 months to drive across country and interview kind of everyday people that she couldn't get on the big show. And she said, I'd love for you to meet me. And it was in this like one pony town in Montana as B-roll. And so I drove 9 hours. It's a big state down, and we met each other. And our whole purpose that day was to tell each other our stories. And we each got at least an hour. An hour. And I say 2 hours. So if you really need to share your story, find a trusted friend and set up some good boundaries. I have a story to tell. I want to tell you how I really am. And it's going to take about 2 hours. Do you have that in you? And most of your friends will be like, nope. Good. That's okay. That's okay. But you know you have a friend or a family member who will listen to you for 2 hours if that's what you need. And think about it. I mean, 2 hours is really not that long. Like if you were going to go have lunch with somebody and you live around here, there's a lot of traffic and then you have to find parking. And, where I live, there's like a mule in the road and there's no phone service, but thanks for laughing. But it's true. There's like a tractor in the road, but here there's just a whole lot of traffic. But and then you have lunch, and then you finish lunch, and then you go back home. That was about a 3-hour experience. So why wouldn't you get on the phone with a friend or a family member and really have a good long jaw, as they say? That's a prompt in this book. They're very friendly prompts like that. This book is designed to help you slow down and true, not like, now I'm meditating, I'm meditating, I'm doing my meditation app right now, I'm meditating for 5 minutes, and that's okay, but it's like, what if I'm counting my steps? All of this is okay, but check in with how you feel going about this one, as Mary Oliver says, precious life. What are you going to do with your one precious life? So why not slow down? Why not be in wonder? And why not be in awe? And then one more question. Hi, Marion. Thank you for asking your question. Oh, good. Sit. Say. Do you mind? No, I'm just fine. Marion McKenzie, everybody. Oh, okay. Anyway.
There are certain books that you read at certain times of day. Or if you were in school, it's good to get math out of the way first thing. Because your brain is like firing on all cylinders. I typically like to read at night before bed. This doesn't seem like a book you want to read at night before bed. I want you to talk.
Did everybody hear that one? Sorry, I didn't give you the mic. I forgot my mic protocol. Yeah, we'll see, right? It just came out April 8th. So I don't know. Maria Shriver loves it. That's just a big, I write for her Sunday paper sometimes. We're gonna wrap this up in just a minute. I think that this is gonna be a real bedside table kind of a book. Because I mean, here, you want to hear something heartbreaking? I'm sure you do. So here's how this whole book starts. This is from my 4th grade journal. My 4th grade journal. I talk too much. I ask too many questions. I cry too easily. I laugh too loud. I'm too sensitive. I'm not sure what that means, and I feel bad about all of it. And I didn't hear that from my dear mother. This was just messaging I was getting from society. And the truth was, probably one person you might have said, I talk too much. Maybe one person might have said, you laugh too loud. Maybe one friend said, you're too sensitive. But some comment like that gets inside of you and it works inside of you. And I think that there's what I've been noticing going across the country, and I've been in Chicago, Connecticut, New Jersey, Boston, Portland, Oregon. That made a whole lot of sense, but it was Powell's bookstore, so that's the mecca. And then here, and then I'm going back west and all of it. And I'm just watching this book my friend is a Native American from the Blackfeet tribe. She's related to Lily Gladstone, she won the Golden Globe for Osage. And it's her cousin who said, Laura, this book holds medicine, and it's your job to be the administrator of this medicine. And so I hope that it goes into backpacks on mountain trails, on trains, if you're a commuter. Audible will come out in like 6 months. I'm gonna do it. I decided. So that means thank you. It's just the Wonder Wound, I talk too much, is like really activated by having to read the whole thing for 367 pages. Listen to me talk. But so I think it is gonna be a bedside table book. I hope it is. I hope it lands in your heart. I'm gonna stop now. You've all been very patient and wonderful, and I hope this book lands in your heart. And I'm gonna be signing books. David, thank you for bringing this series to Valencia. And again, Mom, I love you. Thank you for giving me more out. Okay.
Melvin, thank you so much. Though I see it resonated by the other side. And a great, beautiful excerpt from your book. And speaking of which, as Laura noted, she'll be signing books over here. So please head on over and thank you for coming. Every perfect.
But